The neutral zone station Harmony glinted like a silver needle against the backdrop of deep space, its rotating rings casting elongated shadows across the starlit void. Ambassador Thomas Chen adjusted his collar for the 100th time as he reviewed his notes on his neural tablet. 20 years of diplomatic service hadn't prepared him for this moment, negotiating humanity's first major trade agreement with the Zith'tal Empire. Ambassador, the Zith'tal delegation has arrived, his AI assistant's voice chimed through his neural implant. They're requesting immediate commencement of the meeting. Chen allowed himself a small smile. Typical Zith'tal behavior, always rushing, always pushing. Inform them I'll be there in 10 minutes. Protocol dictates a 15-minute preparation period after arrival. He could almost hear the collective hiss of frustration from the alien delegation. The Zith'tal, with their towering frames and iridescent scales, considered themselves the apex of galactic civilization. Their empire spanned 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, and they weren't used to waiting for lesser species. The conference room was a marvel of neutral design, a perfect blend of various species' architectural preferences. The circular chamber featured adjustable gravity zones, atmospheric bubbles, and temperature-controlled sectors. Chen took his position at the human section, noting how the Zith'tal had already arranged themselves in a dominance pattern, their 7 representatives forming a distinct arrow formation. High Commander Zexur, the lead negotiator, fixed Chen with all 4 of his eyes. "Ambassador Chen, how gracious of you to finally join us." The universal translator couldn't quite mask the condescension in his tone. "High Commander," Chen nodded respectfully, "I trust your journey through the neutral zone was pleasant." "Pleasant enough, though we found the security screening excessive." Zexur's scales rippled in what Chen recognized as annoyance. "Standard procedures, Commander. Even I underwent the same screening upon arrival." Chen activated his holoscreen displaying the trade proposal. "Shall we begin?" The next 3 hours were a dance of words and wills. The Zith'tal wanted unrestricted access to Earth's quantum computing technology. Humanity wanted guaranteed safe passage through Zith'tal space and access to their antimatter production facilities. Neither side was willing to budge. "This is absurd," Zexur finally exploded, his scales now a dangerous shade of crimson. "You offer outdated tech while demanding our empire's most valuable resource." Chen maintained his calm demeanor. "Commander, our quantum computing systems are far from outdated. They're simply different from your crystal-based systems. The potential synergy—" "Potential," Zexur spat the word. "We've analyzed your systems. You're hiding the advanced versions, keeping them secret. I assure you, we've been completely transparent." "Lies!" Zexur's tail lashed out, knocking over his water sphere. "The Zith'tal Empire will not be deceived by primitive apes." Chen sighed, reaching for his own water. "Commander, perhaps we should take a brief recess to—" He never finished the sentence. Later, security footage would show the exact moment when the hidden plasma discharge device activated beneath his chair. The accident was perfectly orchestrated. A catastrophic power surge that would be blamed on human technology incompatibility with the station's systems. Ambassador Thomas Chen's last thought, as he felt the searing heat beneath him, was that humanity wouldn't let this go. The Zith'tal had just made a terrible mistake. As alarms blared and emergency teams rushed in, High Commander Zexur watched with carefully manufactured concern. "How unfortunate," he murmured, "these tragic accidents with unstable human technology." But in his haste to establish plausible deniability, he missed the small drone in the corner of the room's standard human diplomatic security protocol, transmitting everything back to Earth. The Zith'tal Empire had just declared war in all but name, and humanity's response would shake the foundations of their galactic dominion. The news of Ambassador Chen's death hit Earth like a supernova. Global networks exploded with footage of the accident, played on endless loops across every neural feed. The Terran Diplomatic Corps' headquarters in Geneva became a fortress of barely contained fury as officials scrambled to make sense of the situation. "Oh, isn't this just perfect?" Admiral James Wong paced the crisis room, his holographic presence flickering with each agitated step. "They really expect us to believe our tech just happened to malfunction at the exact moment of crucial negotiations." Director Elaine Martinez of Intelligence Operations didn't look up from her quantum display. The Zith'tal are claiming our inferior systems couldn't handle their superior station architecture. Rather convenient, wouldn't you say? Her fingers danced across the holographic interface, sorting through terabytes of data from the diplomatic drone's feed. Convenient like a meteor strike during a picnic, Wong snorted. What do we actually have? Martinez's display erupted into a three-dimensional representation of the conference room. Everything. Those arrogant lizards didn't even bother checking for our standard security measures. Watch this. The scene played out in perfect clarity, but this time with penetrating scan overlays. Beneath the floor plating, a web of non-standard circuitry pulsed with energy, moments before the explosion. Well, Wong leaned forward, his hologram distorting slightly. That doesn't look like human tech to me, unless we've started building our circuits with Zith'tal phase crystals. It gets better. Martinez swiped through several more scans. The device's signature matches perfectly with 3 other accidents involving human diplomats in the past year. All ruled as technical malfunctions, all involving different species technology. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just an assassination, it was part of a pattern. Earth's attempt at peaceful resolution went about as well as expected. The Zith'tal ambassador to Earth, HFY, received the evidence with what could only be described as rehearsed shock. These accusations are outrageous. HFY's scales shifted through patterns of indignation. You dare suggest the Empire would resort to such primitive methods? This is clearly a ploy to distract from your own technological inadequacies. Interesting choice of words, Martinez had noted during the meeting. Primitive methods. We never specified how the device worked. The investigation expanded like a virus through encrypted networks. Human intelligence agents already embedded throughout the galaxy began connecting dots that formed an increasingly disturbing picture. The Zith'tal weren't just eliminating human diplomats, they were systematically undermining every species that showed signs of rapid technological advancement. Deep in the secure vaults of intelligence operations, Martinez's team uncovered transmissions between Zith'tal High Command and their agents. The messages, when decrypted, revealed a civilization terrified of losing its dominance. Look at this, Martinez highlighted a particular message for Admiral Wong. They've been tracking our quantum computing progress. They know we're on the verge of a breakthrough that would make their crystal tech obsolete. So they decided to start eliminating threats before we got too powerful. Wong's hologram crackled with interference, or perhaps rage. Classic Empire behavior, Martinez brought up more files. They've done this before. The Proxima Federation, the Centauri Collective, both rising powers that mysteriously collapsed after a series of unfortunate accidents. The final piece clicked into place when a deep-cover agent managed to access the Zith'tal military mainframe. Hidden behind layers of quantum encryption was a comprehensive plan, Operation Starfall. Its goal, the systematic destabilization and eventual subjugation of all potential rival civilizations, with humanity at the top of the list. They weren't negotiating with us, Martinez realized, her voice cold. They were assessing us for elimination. Chen probably discovered something during the talks that spooked them into accelerating their timeline. Admiral Wong's hologram stood silent for a long moment, staring at the evidence floating before him. Finally he spoke, his voice carrying the weight of inevitable conflict. Well, if the Zith'tal Empire wants to play games, I say we show them how humans handle sore losers. Contact the Security Council. It's time humanity taught these lizards a lesson in proper diplomatic relations. As the call went out, no one in the room could suppress a grim smile. The Zith'tal had just learned the first rule of galactic politics. Never underestimate the species you're trying to eliminate. They were about to learn the second rule, never give humans a righteous cause for war. For the first time in human history, the United Earth Security Council vote was unanimous. The Zith'tal Empire's actions had achieved what centuries of human politics couldn't: absolute unity. As the voting results flashed across the quantum screens, Fleet Admiral Wong couldn't help but appreciate the irony. "Congratulations, lizard people," he muttered, watching the massive mobilization displays in Earth's primary military command center. "You've managed to piss off every single human faction simultaneously. That's got to be some kind of record." The Sol system had become an anthill of military activity. Ships that had been decommissioned years ago emerged from hidden asteroid bases. Orbital shipyards that officially produced cargo vessels suddenly revealed their true nature as massive weapon systems were installed on hulls that were decidedly not designed for shipping furniture. "Status report," Wong commanded, addressing the holographic representatives of Earth's combined fleet. "Pacific Fleet prepped and ready," Admiral Chen replied, Thomas Chen's sister, her eyes carrying a particularly deadly gleam. "Our new quantum-guided missile systems are just dying to meet some Zith'tal ships." "Eurasian Alliance forces at full readiness," Admiral Petrov added. "Stealth systems tested and operational. Those scaled bastards won't see us coming until it's too late." "African coalition standing by," Admiral Okoro's hologram nodded. "Our drone swarms are programmed and ready for deployment. Let's see how their mighty empire handles a few million microscopic surprises." Meanwhile, in the Zith'tal capital of Zeth'tal Prime, High Command was having what they considered a mild strategic discussion, which mainly consisted of congratulating themselves. "The humans are mobilizing their fleets," Supreme Commander Zexur announced to his war council, his scales shimmering with amusement. "How quaint. They actually think they can challenge us." "Our empire spans 3 spiral arms," General Kixatal added, reviewing the human fleet movements with dismissive flicks of his tail. "Their entire civilization is confined to a single system. This will be over before the next molting season." What the Zith'tal failed to realize was that humanity's apparent confinement to Sol wasn't due to technological limitations, it was a strategic choice. While other species expanded rapidly, humans had focused on perfecting their military technology. Every defeat, every setback in their history had been studied, analyzed, and solved for. In the depths of Mars military labs, Dr. Yuki Tanaka surveyed her life's work with satisfaction. "The quantum phase shifters are ready for deployment," she reported to the Joint Command. "The Zith'tal's precious crystal tech won't know what hit it." "Excellent," Wong nodded. "And the AI integration?" "Zeus is fully operational," Dr. Marcus Williams chimed in from his lunar command center. The massive military AI system had been humanity's best-kept secret, a quantum computer network that could process combat scenarios faster than light itself. "He's already generated over 10 million possible battle scenarios. The Zith'tal lose in 99.9% of them." "And the 0.1%, someone asked. "Those assume they suddenly develop common sense and surrender," Zeus's artificial voice replied with what could only be described as digital smugness. The mobilization continued with mechanical precision. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier had their role. Humanity had spent centuries preparing for this possibility, not out of paranoia, but out of a deep understanding of history. Sooner or later, someone always tried to bully the new kids on the galactic block. In deep space, calibration officers tested the new stealth systems. The technology didn't just mask ships from sensors, it bent probability itself, making the human fleet virtually impossible to target. The Zith'tal's mighty targeting computers would be trying to hit ships that existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously. "They think size matters," Colonel Ria Patel remarked during a final fleet inspection. "Wait until they meet our Mosquito squadrons." The tiny one-person crafts carried enough firepower to level a small moon, thanks to humanity's breakthroughs in energy miniaturization. The Zith'tal continued their preparations with characteristic arrogance. Their massive dreadnoughts moved into position, their crews confident in their superior numbers and technology. Their tactical displays showed the human fleet as a tiny collection of dots, barely worth noting. "Look at them scrambling," Zexur laughed during a strategic briefing, "like insects before the storm." But in their arrogance they missed the subtle signs. They didn't notice how human ships moved with almost organic coordination, guided by Zeus's quantum algorithms. They dismissed reports of strange energy readings as sensor glitches. They ignored the warnings from their own scientific advisors about unusual quantum fluctuations near human fleet positions. Back on Earth, Wong reviewed the final deployment plans. Every ship was in position, every trap was set, and every soldier knew their role. The Zith'tal Empire was about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their ships, it was their experience with warfare itself. "Send the final warning," Wong ordered. "Give them one last chance to back down and apologize for Ambassador Chen's death." The message was transmitted in clear, simple terms. The response came back almost immediately, a barrage of plasma fire at Earth's outer defense platforms. Well, Wong smiled coldly as alerts flashed across every screen. I guess that's their final answer. Zeus, initiate Operation Karma. Let's show these lizards why you don't pick fights with a species that turned warfare into an art form. Throughout the fleet, weapon systems hummed to life. In the silence of space, humanity's response to diplomatic murder was about to begin. The Zith'tal border outpost Kex 771 was having a perfectly normal day when it ceased to exist. One moment it was there, a mighty fortress of crystalline architecture and advanced weaponry. The next moment, quantum-shifted missiles phased through its impenetrable shields as if they weren't there. The explosion was rather spectacular, though sadly there wasn't anyone left alive to appreciate it. Target eliminated, reported Captain Miguel Rodriguez from his stealth destroyer. I don't think they even had time to send a distress signal. Across 50 different sectors, the same scene played out with mechanical precision. Zeus had calculated the perfect simultaneous strike, coordinating hundreds of ships across vast distances through quantum entanglement. The Zith'tal's early warning network didn't just fail, it didn't even register. There was something to fail at. On his flagship Karmic Justice, Admiral Wong watched the tactical display with satisfaction. How's that for primitive technology? The Mosquito squadrons proved particularly effective. The tiny ships zipped through Zith'tal formation like their namesakes, their quantum state drives making them literally impossible to target. Zith'tal gunners found themselves firing at probability clouds while very real and very deadly human weapons tore their ships apart. This is outrageous, Supreme Commander Zexer bellowed as reports flooded in. How dare they attack without a proper declaration of war? Sir, his aide interrupted, scales pale with fear. They did declare war. They sent 17 different warnings, including a detailed explanation of why they were attacking, a list of their grievances, and an invoice for Ambassador Chen's funeral expenses. They sent us a what? An invoice, sir. They also included a satisfaction survey about our Empire's assassination services, rating us 3 out of 5 stars for lack of creativity and obvious plausible deniability. The human assault continued with ruthless efficiency. Zeus had identified exactly 27 critical weaknesses in the Zith'tal defense network, and humanity exploited every single one of them. Drone swarms infiltrated their communication systems, replacing important tactical data with human cat videos. Quantum viruses reprogrammed their targeting computers to play ancient human games like Pong instead of tracking enemy ships. Status report, Zexer demanded as his command center erupted in chaos. We've lost contact with the entire 7th Fleet, sir. The humans, they're not fighting fair? What do you mean they're not fighting fair? They're using tactics we've never seen before. Their ships appear in multiple places at once. Our weapons pass right through them, and some of their vessels are so small our targeting systems classify them as space debris until they're already inside our shields. The crown jewel of the first strike came when special operations teams, utilizing phase shift technology, infiltrated the Zith'tal's proudest military academy. They didn't destroy it, they redecorated it. The entire facility was transformed into what humans called a disco, complete with spinning light balls and ancient earth music blasting through every speaker. Please tell me you got footage of their faces, Wong asked as the report came in. Full holographic recording, sir, his communications officer grinned. I believe Colonel Patel described their expression as priceless. By the time the first wave of attacks concluded, the mighty Zith'tal Empire had lost 30% of its border defenses, 2 major fleet bases, and most importantly, their air of invincibility. The species that they had dismissed as primitive apes had just handed them their most humiliating defeat in 10,000 years of military history. In his war room, Zexer faced the grim reality of their situation. How? He demanded. How did they do this? His strategic AI, the pride of Zith'tal technology, displayed its analysis. Human combat efficiency exceeds all theoretical models. Conclusion: we may have made a tactical error in assassinating their diplomat. You think? Zexer's scales turned a mottled grey of despair. What's their next move? As if in answer, every computer screen in Zith'tal space simultaneously displayed the same message. Receipt of message delivery confirmed. Commencing with primary offensive operations. Have a nice day. The smiley face at the end was Colonel Patel's idea. She thought it added a nice personal touch. The Zith'tal Empire had ruled the galaxy through fear and technological superiority for millennia. Now they were learning a harsh lesson about humanity's favorite pastime, turning seemingly hopeless situations into spectacular victories. "They're adapting to our quantum shifts," Admiral Chen reported during the Daily War Council. "Unfortunately for them, that was exactly what we wanted." Operation Ghost Dance kicked into high gear, while the Zith'tal congratulated themselves on developing countermeasures against human phase shift technology. They completely missed the hundreds of stealth drones that had been quietly infiltrating their major systems during the previous battles. "Activation in 3, 2, 1, Colonel Patel's voice carried a hint of mischief. Across Zith'tal space, their mighty warships suddenly found themselves executing ballet maneuvers instead of battle formations. Their fearsome dreadnoughts pirouetted through space, weapon systems temporarily replaced with light shows. "Did you really hack their entire fleet just to make them dance?" Admiral Wong asked, trying to maintain a serious expression. "No, sir," Patel replied. "I hacked their fleet to demonstrate we could control their ships at will. The dancing was just for morale purposes. Ours, not theirs." The psychological impact was devastating. Zith'tal crews began doubting every system, every command. When your ship might suddenly break into a waltz in the middle of combat, it tends to affect your confidence. But humanity wasn't just fighting with technology. Zeus had identified another critical weakness in the Zith'tal Empire, their rigid social hierarchy. Information began leaking to lower-ranked Zith'tal about how their leaders had been hoarding advanced technology, keeping their own people technologically dependent. "Divide and conquer," Dr. Williams explained as he monitored the social upheaval spreading through enemy territory, a classic that never goes out of style. The battles themselves grew more intense. The Zith'tal, driven by desperation and wounded pride, began committing massive forces to every engagement. Human forces responded with what they called the mosquito swarm doctrine, thousands of tiny ships overwhelming larger vessels, their quantum state drives making them virtually impossible to track. At the Battle of Proxima Centauri, the Zith'tal committed their legendary First Fleet, 10,000 ships strong. They emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, ready to crush the human forces once and for all. They found exactly 3 human ships waiting for them. "This is insulting," Admiral Kexiver raged. "They send 3 ships against our mightiest fleet?" "Sir," his sensor officer interrupted, "I'm detecting some strange readings from the asteroid field." The entire field, it turned out, was artificial, a vast network of cloaked mines and drone ships. By the time the First Fleet realized this, they were already trapped in humanity's latest tactical innovation, the quantum cage. "Think of it as a net," Dr. Tanaka had explained during the weapons development. "Except instead of rope, it's made of localized space-time distortions." The mighty First Fleet found itself trapped like fish in a barrel, as human ships emerged from stealth to systematically dismantle them. The few vessels that escaped brought back tales that further demoralized the Empire's forces. Meanwhile, humanity's guerrilla tactics were driving the Zith'tal military leadership increasingly paranoid. Special forces teams would appear out of nowhere, replace critical computer cores with Earth gaming consoles, and vanish. Supply ships would arrive at their destinations to find their cargo holds filled with human snack foods instead of weapons. "My personal favorite," Colonel Patel reported, was replacing their tactical display with an ancient human game called Space Invaders. The irony was apparently lost on them. The internal conflicts within the Zith'tal Empire began to boil over. Lower-ranked officials, armed with leaked information about their leaders' corruption, started questioning orders. Several colonial systems, inspired by human propaganda about self-determination, began making noises about independence. Supreme Commander Zexur found his position increasingly precarious. His own staff began giving him suspicious looks during briefings, especially after humans leaked documents showing how he had personally profited from the diplomatic accidents. "Sir," his aide reported during one particularly disastrous day, "we've lost contact with the 7th, 12th, and 15th fleets." "Destroyed?" "No, sir. They've declared independence. Their commanders issued a joint statement saying, and I quote, 'We're tired of getting our scales handed to us because our leaders are incompetent.'" The war had evolved beyond simple military victory. humanity was systematically dismantling the entire Zith'tal power structure. Every battle served multiple purposes, testing new tactics, gathering intelligence, and most importantly, showcasing the Empire's weakness to its own people. Zeus calculated that the psychological damage was actually more effective than the physical destruction. Humans, the AI noted in its analysis, excel at weaponizing embarrassment. As the conflict entered its 6th month, the Zith'tal Empire faced a harsh reality. They weren't just losing battles, they were losing their identity as the galaxy's supreme power. Their own people were beginning to joke about their military's incompetence, sharing human memes about their defeats. "Now that's how you win a war," Admiral Wong observed, watching another Zith'tal fleet surrender after finding their command codes replaced with subscription offers to human entertainment channels. "They thought killing one diplomat would weaken us. Instead, they gave us the perfect excuse to demonstrate why humans turned warfare into an art form." The stage was set for the final act, and humanity had saved their best tricks for last. The Zith'tal Empire was about to learn that the only thing more dangerous than human military might was human creativity in applying it. The final battle for Zexathor Prime began not with a bang, but with a system-wide broadcast of Supreme Commander Zexur's personal financial records. "Fascinating reading," Colonel Patel commented as the data streamed across every display in the Zith'tal home system, especially the part about him shorting his own military supply companies before each major defeat. The Zith'tal capital erupted in chaos as their citizens learned exactly how their leaders had profited from the war. But this was just the opening move in humanity's endgame. "All units execute Operation Checkmate," Admiral Wong commanded from the bridge of the Karmic Justice. The largest human fleet ever assembled dropped out of quantum shift surrounding the capital system. But instead of attacking, they simply waited. They didn't have to wait long. "Sir," Zex's aide burst into the command center, scales practically white with panic. "The colonial fleets! They're here!" "What, supporting us?" "No, sir. They're demanding your surrender, all of them. Even the Home Guard has turned against us." The mighty Zith'tal Empire, which had stood for thousands of years, was about to experience something entirely new. A revolution broadcast live across all frequencies. Zeus had calculated this outcome months ago. Every battle, every leaked document, every psychological operation had been leading to this moment. The humans hadn't just been fighting a war. They'd been orchestrating the Empire's collapse from within. "You realize," Admiral Chen commented as they watched the Zith'tal capital ships turning their weapons on their own command centers, "that this whole operation was basically just an elaborate revenge plot for my brother's death?" "Of course," Wong replied, grinning. "We humans do have a certain flair for dramatic justice." Supreme Commander Zexur's final transmission to the human fleet was a masterpiece of incredulous rage. "How? How did you primitive apes destroy everything we built?" Admiral Wong's response was deliberately casual. "Oh, that's simple. We learned from history. Every empire falls the same way, from the inside out. We just accelerated the process. Consider it our way of saying thank you for the diplomatic education." The revolution was over almost before it began. Most Zith'tal military units, tired of being embarrassed in battle and now aware of their leader's corruption, switched sides immediately. The few loyal units found their weapons mysteriously transformed into sound systems playing human victory marches. In the end, Supreme Commander Zexur was arrested by his own honor guard. His final sight before being dragged away was Colonel Patel's Mosquito Squadron performing an aerial ballet above the capital city, a final artistic insult to injury. "Status report," Wong requested as the dust settled. "Sir, the Zith'tal Provisional Government is requesting terms. They're offering unconditional surrender, reparations, and a formal apology for Ambassador Chen's death. They've also included a gift certificate for a free dinner at the galaxy's finest restaurant. I believe they're trying to learn human diplomatic customs." Wong couldn't help but laugh. "Well, at least they're learning. Accept their surrender, but make sure they understand one thing. Next time they want to negotiate with humanity, try using words first. It's generally less expensive than losing an empire." As human ships secured the Zith'tal capital, Admiral Chen transmitted one final message to the provisional government. "Thank you for attending humanity's masterclass in modern warfare. We hope you found it educational. Please note that any future attempts at diplomatic assassination will result in an advanced course, and trust us, you don't want to see our advanced teaching methods. The galaxy would remember this as the war that ended not with mass destruction, but with revolution and a particularly sarcastic surrender ceremony. Humanity had proven that the pen might be mightier than the sword, but creativity in applying both was mightiest of all. 1 year after the fall of the Zith'tal Empire, the galaxy was a very different place. The former empire had been reorganized into the federated systems of free worlds, with humans serving as diplomatic advisors, a role that made several former Zith'tal commanders nervous laugh whenever mentioned. You know what's really ironic, Admiral Wong mused during the first anniversary celebration of the victory. If they hadn't killed Ambassador Chen, we probably would have just kept to ourselves for another century or so. The diplomatic conference room where everything had started was now a museum. The placard beneath Ambassador Chen's portrait read, "Here lies the beginning of the shortest galactic empire collapse in recorded history, because someone didn't read Earth's history of warfare first." Humanity's reputation underwent a dramatic shift. No longer seen as the upstart species confined to one system, they were now known as the civilization you absolutely didn't want to annoy. Several other empires quickly revised their diplomatic protocols, particularly the sections about assassination. The final ironic twist came during the signing of the new Galactic Cooperation Treaty. The Zith'tal representatives, now thoroughly humbled, requested Earth's help in developing their quantum computing technology, the very thing they had started the war over. "Of course we'll help," the new human ambassador replied with a smile that made the Zith'tal delegation suddenly remember urgent appointments elsewhere. After all, good diplomacy is all about sharing, though perhaps we should skip the power surge demonstrations this time. The galaxy had learned its lesson. When dealing with humans, proper diplomatic channels were strongly advised. The alternative involved explaining to your citizens why their battleships were performing synchronized dance routines.